7. The Hollywood Assassins. Let's start with an operation so crazy it sounds like a movie plot. Except Israeli intelligence actually created fake movie companies and lived as actors for years just to kill their targets. After Palestinian terrorists murdered 11 Israeli athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympics, Israel's Mossad launched the most sophisticated assassination campaign in modern history. Their agents created an entire fake movie production company and posed as producers, directors, and talent scouts, using their cover to travel freely while tracking targets. Their assassination methods were works of deadly art, exploding telephones, poisoned chocolates, and car bombs. Each killing was designed to send a message: cross Israel, and we will find you anywhere. But here's where this perfect operation went horribly wrong. In 1973, in a quiet Norwegian town called Lillehammer, Mossad agents spent weeks watching their target. They planned everything down to the second. The perfect hit was ready to go. Then, they killed an innocent man. Ahmed Bouchiki wasn't a terrorist. He was just a Moroccan waiter trying to make a living, probably worried about rent and grocery bills like the rest of us. 6 Israeli agents got arrested, and Mossad's flawless operation became an international scandal. Turns out, when you play God with people's lives, innocent people die. But if you think assassinating people on dry land is crazy, wait until you hear about the spies who decided the ocean floor was the perfect place for their next heist. 6. Mission Impossible. At number 6, we have an operation so absolutely nuts that it basically told the laws of physics to sit down and shut up. American spies wiretapped Soviet communications from the bottom of the ocean. 400 feet underwater, in freezing Soviet waters, with Navy divers performing microsurgery on enemy cables in complete darkness. One tiny mistake, and you're not just fired, you're dead. Here's what happened. The Soviets thought they were being super clever, running their most sensitive military communications through underwater cables in their own territorial waters. Nuclear submarine orders, missile launch codes, invasion plans, all the juicy stuff, flowing through cables where they figured no human could possibly reach them. Well, they figured wrong. The Americans looked at this impossible setup and basically said, "Hold my beer." U.S. submarines had to sneak through heavily defended Soviet waters, dodging sonar and patrol boats like they were playing the world's deadliest game of hide-and-seek. And you know what? It worked. For over 10 years, America was reading every Soviet military secret before Moscow's own generals even saw them. Until one guy ruined everything. Ronald Pelton sold out the entire operation for a whopping $35,000. That's less than most people spend on a car these days. But as shocking as Ronald's action was, it's nothing compared to what happens when your own government decides you're the enemy. 5. Operation Attack America. At number 5, we have the most horrifying operation ever proposed by American leaders. A detailed plan to murder their own citizens and blame it on Cuba. Let me set the scene. In 1962, Pentagon generals were absolutely desperate to invade Cuba. Problem is, the American public wasn't exactly thrilled about starting another war. Their solution? Operation Northwoods. The plan was sickeningly specific. Remote control passenger planes to crash and kill hundreds of Americans, then blame Cuba. Sink U.S. Navy ships and hold funerals for mock victims. Stage fake Cuban terrorist attacks in Washington, D.C. and New York. Even bribe Cuban officials to launch fake attacks against American targets. The Joint Chiefs of Staff had written formal documents with budgets, timelines, and operational details for terrorizing their own people. President Kennedy was so horrified when he received this message from the Joint Chiefs of Staff that he rejected it immediately and forced the resignation of Chairman Lyman Lemnitzer. But the plan stayed classified for 35 years. When Operation Northwoods finally became public in 1997, it shattered Americans' trust in their own government. Their military had been willing to slaughter innocent people for political goals. Makes you wonder what other brilliant ideas are sitting in some classified file cabinet right now, doesn't it? But apparently, planning to kill your own citizens was just another day for these people because their next spy mission took description to a whole new level. 4. The 50-Year Lie. At number 4, we have the greatest con job in espionage history. A 50-year scam that fooled 120 countries while making billions of dollars. For half a century, the CIA and German intelligence secretly owned Crypto AG, a Swiss company selling secure encryption equipment worldwide. Governments, militaries, and businesses trusted Swiss neutrality and German engineering to protect their most sensitive communications. Big mistake! The CIA could read every encrypted message sent by foreign governments, diplomatic cables, military plans, state secrets, everything. Every single machine was deliberately broken from day one, and while countries paid millions thinking they were getting top-secret protection, they were actually handing their deepest secrets directly to American spies. The scam generated over $5 billion in revenue while providing intelligence on virtually every major crisis since 1970. When the truth finally came out in 2020, countries around the world lost their minds. Some sued for damages. Others scrapped their entire communication systems overnight. Trust in Swiss neutrality? Completely shattered. But even a 50-year deception couldn't compare to saving the world with people recruited from newspaper adverts. 3. Code breakers. Coming in at number 3 is one of the most shocking intelligence operations in history. A case where British spies stole Nazi Germany's most precious secret and changed the outcome of World War II. The Germans thought their Enigma machine was impossible to crack, and honestly, they weren't wrong to think that. This thing had 159 quintillion possible settings. If one setting stood for every grain of sand on every beach on Earth, the grains would still be smaller than the number of Enigma possibilities. So they believed every communication that came out from that machine was 100% encrypted. But the British had other plans. At a secret place they called Bletchley Park, hundreds of British code-breaking spies worked day and night to crack the impossible. Here's the crazy part. They weren't just math experts. They found people by putting puzzles in newspapers and recruiting anyone who solved them. What they discovered after breaking the codes was terrifying. They could read every German military message. But here's the twist that'll make your stomach turn. To keep this secret safe, British intelligence let entire cities get bombed rather than reveal they could read German plans. When bombers headed for Coventry, Churchill knew exactly when they'd strike, but warning the city would tell the Germans that their code was broken. So Churchill made the hardest choice imaginable: let Coventry burn to protect the bigger secret. Hundreds of people died that night. Churchill could have saved them with one phone call, but he didn't, because losing this advantage could have cost them the entire war. But stealing Nazi secrets was just child's play compared to what came next. 2. $1 Million Coup. At number 2, we have what was probably the craziest Western spy mission ever recorded. Kermit Roosevelt Jr., the president's grandson, walked into his boss's office for what he thought was a normal meeting, but what he walked out with was a suitcase full of cash and orders to overthrow an entire country. Just another Tuesday in the CIA, right? So what did Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh do to deserve this? He made the ultimate mistake. He fought for Iranian interests and took back Iran's oil from British and American companies. And for this single act of patriotism, the CIA thought he deserved complete destruction. After getting his orders, Roosevelt put together the weirdest army you've ever heard of. He hired secret gangs to cause chaos, bribed government officials, and even recruited prostitutes to seduce politicians. But here's where things get absolutely wild. The coup he planned with his makeshift army failed so badly that his bosses basically said, "Come home, you're done." What did Roosevelt do? He defied those orders, and with his last few $1 billion, bribed Iran's military commanders to point their tanks at their own prime minister. 4 days later, Mossadegh was dragged from his house in his pajamas. Democracy in Iran? Dead. Killed by one stubborn CIA agent, and orders from America, which was the biggest champion of democracy at the time. 1. The Secret Army. Finally, we have the most shocking operation of all. A secret army that was supposed to defend Western Europe, but instead spent 40 years bombing innocent civilians. Operation Gladio started as a reasonable Cold War plan. NATO and the CIA created secret, stay-behind armies across Europe to fight Soviet invaders. But the Soviets never invaded, so these secret armies found a new enemy: their own people. Instead of fighting communists, Gladio networks began bombing train stations, markets, and public squares across Europe. Each attack was blamed on left-wing terrorists, but the real killers were right-wing extremists working for NATO. The goal was pure evil: terrorize voters into supporting conservative parties that backed American interests, create fear, blame the left, win elections through mass murder. For 40 years, this shadow network operated without elected governments even knowing it existed. Prime ministers and presidents were kept in the dark, while secret armies manipulated their democracies through terrorism. When Gladio was exposed in 1990, Europe erupted. Italy's prime minister admitted the state had been manipulated by secret forces for decades. These operations reveal how far democratic governments will go to protect their interests, even if it means betraying everything they claim to stand for. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and check out the channel for more videos that will blow your mind.